Alright, so to create this lip sync process, which the end result is to have a character who, when we play it, will the audio will be synced to the mouth. Alright, I have my audio layer hidden, so I didn't hear that there. So if we play this now, oh, it's not synced perfectly, but we'll get to that. Alright, so we're going to start by downloading the file that we had on the classroom, which I'll pull up again. So our mouth file here will give us basically an empty file that just has that mouth in it, and we can talk later about making custom mouths. So I'm just going to delete these layers so we start from nothing here. Alright, so we delete layer. Okay, so when we start off in this project, this template, we just have the mouth. Looking closely, that single appearance of that mouth actually has nested images inside of it. So looking one after another would be all the poses of the mouth. Alright, so that's what's happening kind of in the background there. But before I place that on the stage, I want to get my background kind of picture to be in there. So that's going to be our character in this case. So I can do File, Import to Library, as opposed to Stage, because then if we delete it, it goes away and we have to re-import it. So there we go. So we have our picture, and we're going to bring that into our stage. To make that smaller, we can use this free transform tool, hold the shift key, and make it fit nicely.
Wait a minute, Doc.
Get some headroom in there.
Are you telling me that you built a time machine?
Alright, why am I playing that?
Not a DeLorean?
The way I see it, if you're going to build a time machine into a car, why not do it?
Okay, so once the picture's placed, and we should be naming our layers so that we have... So we'll call this Marty. Then we're going to make a new layer for the mouth. That way, as we're looking at the timeline, we know what's what. From that point, we can bring in the mouth and try to start resizing it. I will recommend locking your background layer so that as you're clicking on this small object, that you don't accidentally grab the one behind it. Zoom in, and we can place this over here as such. Alright, at that point, now we're going to make another layer for our audio. Okay, so new layer, name it as audio, import that file, which you can also, instead of using the file menu, you can use your file explorer. So I'm just navigating to find that over here. Did I put them in here? No, I think it's in my other folder. Probably have to do a little bit of organizing. There we go. So I could just kind of choose from here, and this was called Style. Okay, if you do find that you have an MP3 you need to use, it's not working correctly. As I was saying before, we can use the media encoder. You can drag like the MP3 file into the media encoder, and then just make sure that your format is on, usually WAV format is the most successful. Process it, and then that new file is the one that you want to bring into Animate. So if I do that, and as I was saying, we can just drag that into there. Alright. So now that we have our audio in the library, now we can drag it to the stage for this layer. If you look really closely, There's an orange line in there. Alright, and that's indicating that you have audio in there. Alright, so this does not really, it's only playing for one frame. So in order to get that to kind of hear the rest of it, we would want to know how long that audio file is. In this case, it's about 13 seconds. So I'm going to go to 13 seconds on that layer and say insert frame. So now that audio extends. To get our mouth and our picture to be displayed for that whole time, we're going to do that same thing. So now we're going to just, on those layers, insert a frame. And now we're going to see if the mouth kind of fits. I can hide that layer so we don't hear that going through. If you're not, though, hearing it all, and you should be, you want to be, you would want to go to Properties, make sure your sync is on Stream. Alright, not Event, where it's none. Alright, so I'm going to look through, make sure the mouth, it's a little bit high. So I'm going to, on the first layer, or the first frame, that's the boss really. As I say, it's kind of control how the rest of it is. So I'm going to maybe shrink that down and move it down a little bit more and kind of see how that looks again. Yep, so that sizing looks more appropriate, kind of fitting the same as that. Let's see, do I have an extra keyframe in here? I think I chose, yeah I did. I must have clicked on the second frame. So yeah, as you see, that put in an extra keyframe, and we want to make sure we're on the first one, otherwise we'll get kind of jumps as it goes from one frame to another. So again, I want to move it down a little bit, so I'm going to use the arrow key here. And now if I play through, we see that. Alright, so now that the mouth is in there, and now the last thing we need to do is sync it, so we're going to choose the first frame, because that's where we want the syncing to start happening. And I'm going to choose, if I go to this object, I can say lip syncing. Now these are, for this mouth, usually are kind of by default, but you can, just to make sure they're all matched up. I just choose the one and just find the picture that matches with it. Seems like they kind of are coming across and translating, being recognized for us. So if we just press done, and this should not be grayed out. If you do, make sure, if it's grayed out, make sure you don't have your audio on a picture layer. Alright, so we just process that through, and it puts in all of our keyframes, and now we can kind of see that happening. My audio is off, but now we can.
Wait a minute, Doc.
Alright, so that would be kind of the automatic lip syncing. If you did want to swap out a pose, if you felt it just wasn't the right one, we could go into here, we could click that keyframe and then go to frame picker, and you could choose a different frame and it's going to swap it out for that. Alright, so that is pretty much the process of that. When you're done, you can, if you want to publish just as the MP4, that's the process for that, or as kind of a step saver. If you're going right to YouTube, you can do your social share and go to YouTube from there and then publish that.